Russian President Vladimir Putin is playing with fire, according to President Trump. The commander-in-chief took to Truth Social Tuesday, saying that Putin doesn't realize that really bad things would have happened to Russia if it weren't for him. That statement, however, didn't sit well with the Russian president. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said in response, quote, "I only know one really bad thing, World War III, and I hope Trump understands this." And then on Wednesday, CNN White House reporter Elena Treen quoted an aide to Putin saying, quote, "Trump says a lot of things," and continued to say that Russian leaders have concluded that Trump is, quote, "not sufficiently informed about what is really happening."
The exchange comes after deadly Russian airstrikes on Ukraine over the weekend that killed at least 12 people. Those continued strikes are happening amid peace talks that have reportedly stalled, and that's prompted Trump to reportedly consider additional sanctions on Russia and escalate his criticism of Putin. Here he is on Wednesday in the Oval Office. Take a look.
Do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that.
Following the airstrikes this weekend, Trump said in a post on Truth Social that Putin has gone, quote, "absolutely crazy." In the same post, he also took shots at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that, quote, "everything out of his mouth causes problems." It shouldn't be an and situation. He always has to bash Zelensky unnecessarily when Russia is the aggressor. I can't say that enough, that he just finds the time to always condescend.
No,
but it's just not necessary right now when people in Ukraine are being killed after a 2-hour conversation with President Trump where he said that he was led to believe that immediate peace talks would start. Mind you, they haven't started at all. Putin is completely mocking him at this point.
People are still going to be dying if we say Zelensky's the greatest. He's the Abraham Lincoln of our time.
I think that's egging it on.
It doesn't. People are going to be dying anyway.
No, Putin's team is dismissing Trump as emotional, saying that he doesn't understand the complexity of the situation. They're mocking him at this point. What happened on that 2-hour phone call that didn't happen in actual real life on the Russia side? Because there's a complete misunderstanding of what Trump actually thought he could accomplish. And even if he said it in jest that he was going to solve this in 24 hours, it's been 6 months almost of 24 hours. He hasn't done anything. Okay, he hasn't done one thing.
He's doing everything he can. He's setting up diplomatic meetings between the parties, and it's very difficult, yes, to bring this war to an end because of the overwhelmingly strong position Russia is in because of the Biden administration's failed policy toward it. The Biden policy was no criticism of Zelensky, as much aid as they want. We are with you. You can win this war. Even as military advisors in the U.S. side and in the Ukrainian side said there is no plan to win this war. It is a hopeless struggle that became more and more obvious as time wore on. And still, the Biden administration said, no, endless support, don't question it, more money, more weapons. So they drove this conflict on. They could have been and should have been honest with Zelensky much earlier. You can't win this fight. You need to have a negotiated peace. There needs to be a willingness on your side to do that.
And there wasn't. They had not just saying yes to every single thing that Vladimir Putin wants. I think that is then bending the knee. We also have to understand that
they have to bend the knee.
No, because Russia.
If you don't bend the knee,
I think that you are over exaggerating. Like Russia is doing okay, but Ukraine is holding its own. And we are holding up $3 billion in funds that were already approved to Ukraine to continue forward. So if Europe and the U.S. also and Western parts of the world continue to support Ukraine, then they can create a stalemate between Russia.
No, Russia's economy. Every last person in Ukraine.
No, let me finish. Russia's economy is currently under strain. Their oil prices are falling. Their labor is a little bit more scarce than it was before the war, and their inflation is high. They do not want to keep on going. They just want to get what they want, which is 20% of Ukraine, which European allies do not want to happen. So in order to avoid that solution, we can release the funds that were already approved for them and continue to create this stalemate until Putin starts to agree to come to the table for real and not for play. He's just saying things right now. He wouldn't go to Turkey. He wouldn't come to Zelensky in any real way. He wouldn't have a conversation. He talked to Trump on the phone to appease him and then mocked him. His team mocked him as soon as they got off the phone. That's not any real solution either. And blaming Biden is also not a real solution.
Well, that's the issue. We are now in a situation where there is no good solution other than Russia getting a significant portion of what it wants. We're in no additional amount of pressure or sanctions or aid packages. more money to Ukraine isn't going to do any good. They don't have they're losing so many fighters. There won't be bodies on the ground to use the weapons that we're paying for. They're conscripting well outside normal military range now. There's videos of people being dragged from their homes to be forced into the Ukrainian army. This is illiberal itself, by the way. There are tactics that the Ukrainian government has been fine. Well, they were forced to do it because they're in an emergency. I still don't like them. I don't want to suspend habeas corpus in an emergency, even in the U.S. context. So I'm someone who says even if it's a war, that doesn't mean we don't vote for our leaders and we jail dissenters. We don't do those kinds of things. They're doing all that. Fine. They cannot win. We need to be honest. And that means Russia is going to end up with a chunk of Ukraine, or they're going to end up with all of Ukraine. Those are the two choices. Those are the only choices.
No, Russia is essentially bullying everybody then. As a Russian source told
Correct.
Reuters, quote, peace tomorrow will be even more painful. That translation to me says that if Putin doesn't get what he wants, he's going to keep killing until he does.
Right.
That
Correct.
should not be acceptable to the U.S. or Europe.
That's like saying it shouldn't be acceptable that, my hair's getting thinner
No,
and I run a little more slowly. It's just reality. It's of aging. It happens.
Trump's bluff is being exposed. I think that he was unprepared with how to deal with Russia. I think he came into this extremely confident and ran on the fact that he had a great, quote, great relationship with Vladimir Putin. Obviously, he does not. He's not respected in any real way. And so he has to come to the table with a new solution. And the solution is not just cowering in every single way to Russia and saying yes when it makes some of our strongest allies in Europe extremely uncomfortable for Russia to have that much land. Maybe come to the table and figure out how to talk to foreign leaders as opposed to...
Then they can send ground troops. If it's
making
so important,
Zelensky take the brunt of all the berating.
If France and Germany and the UK think that Russia adding an inch of territory to its nation is an unacceptable
an inch,
assault,
20% of Ukraine?
then they can send our troops.
It's not an inch.
Then let's do World War III. Fine.
No, nobody wants
but
to
they
do
don't
World War
believe
III.
Right, because they know it's not worth it. They know it doesn't matter. If 20% of a country
what's going to
that
stop
has
Russia from
changed
doing this
hands
again?
a million times.
Tell me what's going to stop Russia from doing this again, and what's going to stop from encouraging other countries that this is okay. Let's just start with the first
If
part.
they attack a NATO country, we will have World War III.
No, it's not NATO country. It's Ukraine. So what if they do this all over again in a year or 2 years? So we just are allowing. Yes, we're just going to allow it to keep happening. And if they get all the way, if they take over Ukraine, so you think they're going to own the full of Ukraine someday? We need to just say, just take it now.
Under your policy and Joe Biden's policy,
No,
yes.
that's not my policy. I'm not a politician. I think that that's just a better idea than just allowing Putin to do whatever he wants. But we'll keep talking about this. Next up, President Trump's AI czar blasted Elizabeth Warren over her cryptocurrency stance.